When you're designing a marketing campaign, it's very important to have goals that are meaningful and actively move your business towards a specific outcome. Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. Let's talk about making enough to pay the bills with a newsletter or some kind of regular activity in your business, some kind of core part of your business as a copywriter, as a marketer. And this is even something that can kind of build an anchor in your agency to generate that core revenue that's necessary to grow. Now, a lot of folks, when they talk about growing their agency, when they talk about growing their business as a freelance copywriter, as a marketer, they often think about like how many touches, how many views, how many likes, how many subscribes. By the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, if I didn't say that earlier. And we're talking specifically about marketing-focused goals. See, when I sit down with a client and I say, what are your goals as an agency? So a lot of my subscribers are freelance copywriters and marketers from all different backgrounds who want $1 million plus agency. Now, they don't necessarily want to have a bunch of employees anywhere. They prefer the subcontractor model, but they do need some help around the office, at least to get bookkeeping done, at least to get the day-to-day business process smoother. And so they have these process goals like a number of touches, a number of visitors to a website, a number of likes on a video. I even have a report right here that has the average percent view, number of likes, and number of subscriptions added for a YouTube channel we're optimizing. And these things are helpful, but many of these goals don't drive towards metrics that move the dollar earnings of the organization. So if you got a video that has a lot of subscribers, that really doesn't mean anything. Or how are you monetizing the channel? Which of these videos are leading to leads on your website? Which of these leads are becoming clients? We have to shift our view to measures that generate or are tied specifically to revenue. So if you're using an email newsletter model where you get somebody on a list and you're holding them on the email newsletter, if you don't know about this model, we talk about it in the prospect newsletter programs that I've done before, but essentially this email newsletter or this print newsletter is kind of where you keep that list warm. And if you are trying to grow a business, then it doesn't matter whether that list is 100 individuals or 100,000 individuals if the number of clients you have is not functioning right. So you have 100 people on your list and you have 2 really good clients, and those 2 really good clients hit your income numbers. Well, that's great. You can run all day like that. Whatever you did to get the people on the list of the type who become clients, you just keep doing that. However, if you can't make the bills pay with 2 clients, so for example, you hire an assistant, you hire a bookkeeper, you've got an office or something like that, and your business is functioning, and it's not bootstrapped like a freelance copywriter that sits around anywhere in the world, you have now a base overhead number, which is the amount of money you're going to spend every month whether or not you have clients. And then you're going to have your marketing budget, which is how much you're spending to get clients. And so if you're not getting any clients, then you don't necessarily know what to improve other than trying something different. Now, I'm explaining it this way because it helps you understand the challenges your clients are going through and how you can be a solution to them by helping them organize their marketing plan, execute their marketing plan, and then measure their marketing appropriately. But what you have to measure starts with your accounting system and then moves its way back to the marketing activity. And this is something you're doing as a strategic decision-making route, where you're saying, how much money do I need to earn as an organization? If you as an individual need to earn a certain amount of money, that's net to the business. Then the business has overhead. Then the business has a marketing budget. And then you have an overall base expense. What activities can you have in the business that builds up that base? Because see, if you have active clients, like private clients, you may not have enough hours in the day to work for the clients in order to make the money. Now that means you can increase your rate, but that's the factor we're looking at. So what you want to measure here is the available hours that you have to work, the amount of money, it's the burn rate, how fast is the money going out, the earnings rate, how fast are you billing, and then finally, what kinds of products or services can you sell. So if you have a newsletter, a paid newsletter, for example, or a membership site, or a coaching program, that might be residual income. If you have retainer clients, then that might be a residual cash flow, not necessarily income, because you have to convert the retainer into billable hours. Or you could have a book or report or home study program that you sell. All of these different channels have numbers associated with them of how many sales need to happen in order to cover your monthly expenses. Now, I know a lot of you guys are just hoping to get sales to make any money every month, and you're not as sophisticated as this. But what I'm saying is if you want to be more profitable, have more residual income, and ultimately enjoy the business of copywriting better, then you have to have some kind of baseline cash flow that overcomes the baseline expenses of your organization while having enough money left over in order to pay your bills. So, what are the metrics that we use? We use break-even metrics on the acquisition of a customer. So let's clear up what that means. You have a certain amount of money you're spending every month, including your marketing budget, and for every customer you get, you need to net enough to cover those expenses, to recover those expenses. And so your general leads coming in have a cost. Your sales have a cost. But your profits per sale must be greater than the total amount of money spent on the front end. Now, I very often put in my contributed overhead into my marketing costs because that's part of what's spent. Now, if you're running 4 or 5 marketing campaigns, your overhead is spread over 4 or 5 marketing campaigns, and so that number is a little bit different math. But your individual campaign costs, let's say you have 5 campaigns running, each of them are putting people on an email newsletter, so there's no transaction, they're just leads on an email newsletter. The total amount of money you spent and the total overhead put together divided by the number of leads on your email newsletter over the period of a month, let's say it's a month, that gives you your cost per lead. Then you want to look at per channel. You have 5 marketing campaigns. Are there any marketing campaigns here that bring us a lead at a more effective cost per lead? Now, it's not necessarily a less cost per lead because you can pay a lot for leads if you have the sales on the back end. But do you see what we're framing out here? We're framing out knowing not only the average cost per lead, but the cost per lead per each channel in which you brought those people in, which means your source attribution must be correct. So you got these leads on an email newsletter. Now, once a month, you're sending out an offer on the email newsletter, maybe once a week. It really just depends on how you're structured, and that offer is for a paid consultation. In my case, a paid consultation is $397. I get on the phone. It's kind of a discovery call. If the prospect does an assessment, I've done a lot of homework before I get on the call with them, and we try to solve some problems. We try to set them up for success. $397. Let's say if every 100 leads that come through, one of those becomes a customer, and I gross $397 for that transaction for that particular customer, and each lead, we're just going to make the math easy here, each lead costs me $39.70, then effectively, if it takes 100 leads in order to get one customer, my cost per sale is $397. And I may have done the math wrong on that, but do you see my point? We are determining how much it's costing us to get a customer. I'm saying here is $3.97 a lead, which is incredible if you can get it, but it's not likely that. That means that we just broke even. Now, in the case of a typical cost per lead, which is $20 or $30 each, and it takes me 100 individuals to come in at, let's say, $39.70, that's $3,970 cost per sale. If the only transaction I'm getting is a $397 consultation or a $99 press release, Can you see how it's difficult to make money? Now, again, I promise to talk with you about the business of copywriting and the importance of knowing your numbers, tracking metrics that matter, because a lot of copywriters today, a lot of marketers today, they're working hard. Don't get me wrong. They are working hard, but they're not making any money. And if you're not making any money, then you're going to eventually go out of business. And if you don't go out of business, you'll suffer. So if you have gone out of business before, if you've struggled in this game before, then I don't feel bad for it. It's just maybe the numbers weren't right. And so what this tells me that if you're going to be paying $39 per lead, and for every 100 leads that you get a sale, then you have to have a ticket price of $4,000. See how this works out? Now, Jay Abraham used to have these, he launched these newsletters, and the newsletters were maybe like $150 a year, probably, $1 billion in today's money. And then he would always offer, when he launched these newsletters, I think Gary Halbert did this as well, like a $5,000 or a $10,000 lifetime subscription. And then these people that are lifetime subscriptions are his hot names, hot list. They're buyers, because they're going to invest a lot of money up front. He's going to treat them really good. He's going to create content specifically for them. And everybody else who subscribes to the newsletter is just getting to see what the big players are learning. And so what would happen here is that you'd get 100 leads. One of them would become a customer, but there's a probability that one of them would become maybe 100 out of every sales for that newsletter would be a big ticket buyer. And then that would basically fund out your marketing budget for the rest of the year. So what I'm getting at here is there something in your business, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a coaching program, whether it is a bundle of services that is significant in gross value, it should have a margin, but significant in gross value, to overcome the costs of accumulating names on a list. Now, if you're using a Dream 100 approach, you're going to build those lists. Your cost per leads is whatever it costs to research them. And then you're going to put most of your money into the follow-up campaigns, whether you're using magnetic marketing, or you build a sales funnel, or you have an information kit. Again, you draw this out on paper. This diagram is what they call a flow chart or a decision tree. What's a flow chart? And you're using a decision tree to path the customer through the flow chart. And then you're going to start putting numbers on it. What is it costing you to send a mailing? What does it cost you to send an email? Now, a lot of you folks out there are struggling because you say, well, I just do organic search traffic. I write a lot of content. Well, the content costs you something to write. You might be saying, well, I've got social media. It costs you something to put the social media in there. And again, that's why I always put in the business overhead as part of our total operating costs, or the cost to exist, in addition to the marketing costs, which again jacks up everybody's lead price. And if they aren't doing the numbers right, what's interesting, if a client, if somebody sees their numbers and they try to mimic what they're doing, so let's say a competitor gets a hold of something, or you have somebody on your team leave and go work for a competitor, the competitor is quite confused because they'll spend a lot of money to get a lead, knowing your lead costs are much higher, and they will go broke because they don't understand your conversion. Or worse, they'll be so delighted how little they're paying on a lead, and then they'll be disillusioned because they're getting customers but not making any money. My goal for you is how to make money with marketing-focused goals. And so now we know how much it costs per lead, how much it costs per sale, and we know that there is a systematic approach for getting people from your lead list to your buyer list. And what we're presenting in the public is actually difficult to mimic because we're just focusing on lead generation. We're compiling lists, we're targeting people with pay-per-click advertising, we're doing very target market guest articles on blogs, we're sending letters directly to people's office, and because we know the numbers associated with each of those campaigns, and we're tracking them individually, and then we're compiling them up to get average numbers to know which campaigns are above average and which ones are below, and we're calculating our cost per sale, and we're also determining our profit per sale by channel. then we can just basically destroy our competition. We can really build that agency up. You'll know how many copywriters you can have on staff. Again, I advocate a model where you're leveraging joint venture relationships, partnerships, and subcontracting the other copywriters. But ultimately, knowing your numbers allows you to dial in to find the very best customers. What Gary Halbert and Jay Abraham were doing with their paid newsletter was essentially getting a refund for all their marketing dollars and overhead. So that when a client job came on, a billable hours client job came on, you could bill that client 100% of their costs and of their value of the project without having to worry about your general overhead. Because if you don't do this type of thing, what will happen is you'll get a client and then you'll have these dips of income. So you won't have that consistent road base of income. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and I was hoping I'm sharing this with you at a time that you're ready to hear it, because this is confusing to some people that we're applying this direct marketing math and we're doing it differently than what you'd see in the mainstream. And that's because I want you to have a profitable business. Yes, we might be double counting some things if you're not, if you don't have really clean chart of accounts. And then later, as your company gets bigger, if you put a bean counter on this, they're going to tell you you can't buy customers at such a high price because we're only breaking even on that first sale. No, the first sale is to find buyers, and the second, third, fourth, fifth, the lifetime value of the customer is what matters the most. So we could talk about lifetime value of a customer at another time. Again, if you have any questions about what I've covered here today, or you want to go in depth in the context of your own business, you can visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk. Go to the contact page and ask your questions, because we're here to help you grow your marketing business. We're here to help you get more clients and build a lifestyle business that functions well and has consistent income and really drives you towards that $1 million gross mark. That should leave you with 6 figures in your pocket and a consistency about the business so that you can really use those words that sell to grow a portfolio of valuable clients. Until next time, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I'll look to hear from you soon.